For centuries, humanity had been observed, measured, and casually dismissed by the galaxy's dominant powers, a civilization whose reach spanned hundreds of star systems and whose fleets of warships and patrol drones seemed unstoppable, yet none of them ever truly understood Earth, mistaking the planet's relative isolation and modest technological facade for weakness, assuming that humanity's political squabbles, environmental struggles, and slow expansion across the solar system marked them as insignificant, a species incapable of strategic foresight or coordination on a galactic scale, while in reality, humans had quietly studied, adapted, and innovated beyond the comprehension of their distant observers, developing advanced propulsion systems that could traverse interstellar distances faster than any alien scout anticipated, creating defense networks that could detect and neutralize threats before they even appeared on sensors, and mastering psychological warfare, diplomacy, and strategic deception to levels that made entire fleets pause before committing to confrontation. And when the first probe from the Euraxian Collective entered Earth orbit, scanning for resources and weak points with a clinical precision that had intimidated entire star systems into submission, it recorded everything, yet misinterpreted the data entirely, concluding that humanity was fragmented, incapable of unified action, and technologically inferior, not realizing that the very act of surveillance had played directly into human hands, as Earth scientists had long anticipated such probes, embedding false signatures, deceptive energy outputs, and subtle misinformation that would only become apparent once humans decided to reveal their capabilities, and that decision, long delayed, had been driven by careful observation of galactic overreach, of treaties broken, of neighboring worlds stripped bare and left in ruin, teaching humanity patience and the necessity of preparation. And when the time came, every misjudgment, every underestimation, and every arrogance of alien powers will be turned against them, starting with the sudden activation of deep space relay arrays that instantly connected Earth's military command with hidden orbital platforms, stealth ships, and automated defense grids. A network so advanced that entire sectors of the Euraxian Collective's borders were compromised before their central command could even comprehend what had happened. And, simultaneously, the human fleet, long thought primitive and insufficient, emerged from shadow zones between star clusters, vessels constructed with adaptive hulls, energy redirection fields, and propulsion systems capable of maneuvers previously considered impossible by alien engineers, moving in coordinated waves that struck with surgical precision, disabling communication nodes, incapacitating armadas, and cutting off supply lines without losing a single human life to direct confrontation. And as the Euraxians struggled to respond, other species that had suffered under their domination began transmitting data to Earth, warning of hidden installations, secret armaments, and political fractures within their own systems, and humans absorbed every piece of information with calm efficiency, planning each strike to exploit weaknesses while minimizing collateral damage, demonstrating not only military brilliance but a surprising moral code that contrasted sharply with the cold, opportunistic logic of their enemies. And while some alien commanders attempted to negotiate, believing Earth's apparent restraint and delayed action indicated fear or hesitation, they failed to recognize that this pause was deliberate, a period of observation, calculation, and anticipation. And when the first human emissaries finally arrived at Euraxian command hubs, they brought no demands, no ultimatums, only concise evidence of what humanity could achieve, the controlled destruction of critical infrastructure, the liberation of subjugated worlds, and the orchestration of entire fleets under human strategic direction, a demonstration so overwhelming that even the most confident Euraxian admirals could not deny the truth, that they had underestimated a species that combined ingenuity, adaptability, moral awareness, and relentless determination into a force capable of reshaping the balance of power across the galaxy. And as the ripple of humanity's awakening spread, allied species began to rise, inspired by the precision and effectiveness of human planning, joining coordinated strikes and resisting oppression where they had once been helpless. And in every corner of the galaxy, communications relayed reports of human-led victories, diplomatic resolutions, and the neutralization of threats in ways that emphasize intelligence over brute force, teaching the universe a lesson long overdue, that restraint and patience, combined with unparalleled capability, could unleash consequences beyond imagination, and that the species they had mocked, studied, and dismissed for so long had mastered not only the art of survival but the art of deliberate, controlled escalation, proving that humanity's greatest strength was never an immediate reaction, but in the measured, inevitable unfolding of power that left no question of superiority, and as systems fell into human-guided order, as planets were freed from tyrannical regimes, and as fleets once thought invincible were quietly dismantled, the galaxy began to comprehend a reality it had long refused to acknowledge. Humans had withheld their strength for the perfect moment, and when that moment came, it was not just a strike, not just a battle, but a revelation of humanity's ability to orchestrate the course of entire civilizations with precision, foresight, and an unshakable sense of purpose. A demonstration that would echo across generations and ensure that no star system would ever again treat Earth or its people as anything less than a force of undeniable consequence. The initial shockwave of humanity's awakening rippled outward from the Sol system, destabilizing entire sectors that had long relied on fear and domination to maintain control, and as alien governments scrambled to reassess their assumptions, humans moved with a precision that made every previous underestimation catastrophic. Fleets that had been confidently pursuing Earth's borders found themselves isolated, their supply lines severed, their communications scrambled by electronic warfare. Measures that had been quietly perfected in orbital shipyards and hidden deep space stations, and the humans who commanded these operations were not generals in the traditional sense, but engineers, strategists, diplomats, and explorers whose knowledge of alien psychology, technology, and cultural norms allowed them to predict reactions with unnerving accuracy. And while the galaxy watched, humans began coordinating the liberation of enslaved species, integrating their efforts seamlessly with local resistance movements, teaching them methods of stealth, sabotage, and survival that were highly advanced yet easy to implement, demonstrating that humanity's strength lay not merely in firepower but in the ability to adapt and uplift allies. And as planets fell from oppressive control into human-guided freedom, a pattern emerged that even the most seasoned alien commanders could not anticipate, because humanity's approach was not chaotic conquest but systematic restoration, restoring infrastructure, implementing equitable governance, and neutralizing threats in ways that minimize long-term damage while maximizing both morale and stability. And this methodical expansion stunned the Erythian hegemony, a coalition of warlike species that prided itself on efficiency and ruthlessness, who had assumed that any human retaliation would be impulsive, emotional, and ultimately self-destructive, only to discover that humans operated with a combination of calculated restraint, strategic patience, and a moral framework that alien minds could barely comprehend. And as the hegemony's fleets were routed through ambushes, traps, and preemptive strikes, their leaders faced a bitter realization that their own arrogance had sealed their fate. And while human commanders gave careful attention to weakening enemy capabilities, they also deployed humanitarian operations simultaneously, rescuing civilians, stabilizing economies, and securing vital resources, all of which increase the loyalty of liberated populations and amplify the efficiency of subsequent operations. And from orbiting command centers, human scientists monitored alien technology, replicating and improving upon it to craft countermeasures that rendered traditional strategies obsolete, while human diplomats engaged with skeptical allies, convincing entire star systems that joining humanity's coordinated resistance was the only path to survival. And the galaxy began to shift, slowly at first, as news of human victory spread faster than any propaganda, inspiring rebellion, resistance, and alliances in places that had long been thought immovable. And the humans themselves, despite the scale of their actions, remained disciplined, never overextending, always calculating the next move, leveraging every bit of intelligence gathered over decades of observation. And as human fleets executed simultaneous operations across multiple star systems, alien powers realized that Earth had never truly been alone, that hidden outposts, cloaked supply routes, and centuries of preparation had combined to create an unstoppable network. And when the Euraxian collective attempted to retaliate, they found themselves countered at every turn, their fleets funneled into traps, their bases neutralized by precision strikes, and their political structure destabilized as subject species rose in defiance, often guided quietly by human advisors who ensured minimal bloodshed while maintaining maximum strategic effect. And in every confrontation, humans demonstrated adaptability, improvisation, and an uncanny ability to anticipate alien tactics, turning every weakness into a trap, every arrogance into vulnerability, until the collective realization settled across the galaxy. The species they had ignored and underestimated was now dictating the terms of conflict, diplomacy, and order, and while some alien leaders attempted to negotiate, they were met with measured firmness, clear communication of expectations, and unmistakable evidence of humanity's capacity to enforce them, leaving no ambiguity that resistance would fail, cooperation was beneficial, and any future aggression would meet the same methodical, devastating response. And as the liberated sectors stabilized under human oversight, previously hostile populations began to emulate Earth's methods of governance, scientific development, and social coordination, multiplying the effectiveness of humanity's reach. While fleets once feared for their size and strength were repurposed, re-educated, or disbanded under human supervision, ensuring long-term peace through strategic dominance rather than mere conquest, and the galaxy, having witnessed the full extent of human patience, planning, and decisive action, began to accept that the era of underestimating Earth was over, that a species once assumed weak had now proven capable of reshaping the course of civilizations, and that humanity's restraint, followed by meticulously orchestrated unleashing of power, had not only freed countless worlds but redefined what it meant to be strong in the universe, combining intellect, morality, and unrelenting perseverance into a force that no alien empire could ignore or challenge successfully. As humanity's influence expanded across the galaxy, alien leaders who had once dismissed Earth began to feel a creeping, undeniable anxiety, realizing that every calculation, every assumption, and every strategic plan they had made without accounting for humans was now rendered obsolete, and the quiet patience of Earth's people, which had been mistaken for weakness, had allowed them to study alien psychology, logistics, and technological limitations in exhaustive detail, enabling humans to predict political fractures, anticipate betrayals, and exploit hidden tensions within multi-species alliances. And when the first coordinated human-led offensive began beyond the borders of the Sol system, fleets that had been thought invincible were systematically neutralized, often without a single human casualty, through a combination of precision strikes, adaptive electronic warfare, and unconventional tactics that defied alien expectations. And as planets were liberated, human engineers restored critical infrastructure with speed and efficiency that astonished even their own allies, creating stable, self-sufficient systems capable of resisting retaliation, while human diplomats leveraged victories to forge new alliances, bringing former enemies into cooperative arrangements that strengthened collective resistance against oppressive powers. And the Euraxians, who at first underestimated humanity, struggled to maintain cohesion among their commanders as communication lines faltered, morale collapsed, and every failed maneuver reinforced a terrifying truth. Humans were not only unpredictable but strategically omniscient in ways that alien minds had difficulty comprehending, and while some species attempted to exploit this human-centric conflict for their own gain, they quickly learned that any engagement with humanity demanded adherence to strict rules, meticulous planning, and acknowledgement of human capabilities, for deviation resulted in swift, overwhelming consequences. And humans, though powerful, were not reckless, combining their technical superiority with tactical restraint, ensuring that every action reinforced long-term stability rather than short-term chaos. And while fleets clashed, humans simultaneously pursued intelligence gathering on a galactic scale, tapping into networks of subjugated civilizations to map out hidden resources, uncover clandestine installations, and identify potential threats before they could be mobilized, turning previously invisible vulnerabilities into decisive advantages. And as liberated worlds began contributing to the human-led coalition, sharing knowledge, fleets, and industrial capacity, the scale of humanity's operational reach became unprecedented, allowing them to engage multiple theaters simultaneously while maintaining strategic cohesion. And every alien attempt at counteroffensive met with meticulous preparation, whether through rapid deployment of specialized human forces, manipulation of terrain and orbital positions, or the use of psychological operations that induce hesitation, fear, and miscalculation in enemy ranks. And in this way, humans demonstrated that warfare was not merely about destruction, but about control, influence, and shaping the decisions of every actor across the battlefield, turning their adversaries' strengths into liabilities while preserving the lives and potential of allies. And the galaxy watched in awe as humanity orchestrated liberation, resistance, and reorganization with such precision that entire civilizations once thought doomed were now thriving under human guidance. And in every engagement, humans revealed the depth of their adaptability, improvisation, and ingenuity, often repurposing alien technology in ways that the original creators could not have imagined. And while alien powers scramble to respond, they face an uncomfortable reality. Earth's people had withheld their true strength for centuries, not out of fear but out of strategic discipline. And the unleashing of that power had reshaped not only military balance but political, social, and cultural hierarchies, establishing a precedent for how intelligence, restraint, and relentless determination could be combined to enforce order, liberate the oppressed, and leave no doubt across the galaxy that humanity, once underestimated and dismissed, had become the central pivot upon which the fate of star systems now turned. And even those who had opposed them began to understand that negotiation and cooperation were the only paths to survival in a universe where humans had learned to master both the art of war and the art of restraint simultaneously. Humanity's influence continued to radiate outward, reaching systems that had long been resigned to oppression, and as humans coordinated the integration of newly liberated worlds into a galaxy-wide framework of security, technology, and governance, they revealed a capacity for both leadership and foresight that stunned alien observers who had assumed the Sol system's inhabitants were impulsive and short-sighted. Yet every action taken by humanity was a result of decades, even centuries, of careful observation, planning, and contingency management, and the initial shock of human power gave way to a profound, growing realization among alien powers that they were facing not just a military force but a civilization capable of orchestrating complex socio-political, economic, and technological change on an interstellar scale, and the humans themselves were not uniform in purpose but diverse in skill and perspective. From engineers redesigning alien starships to scientists unraveling propulsion systems once considered cutting-edge, from diplomats forging alliances with former enemies to strategists manipulating battlefield conditions across multiple star systems, and every move was designed to maximize efficiency, minimize unnecessary destruction, and expand influence while preserving the autonomy of liberated species, creating a coalition unlike any the galaxy had seen before. Bound by mutual respect and shared purpose rather than coercion, and while the Euraxian Collective and other dominant powers scrambled to regain control, humans had already anticipated likely responses, planting contingencies, misinformation, and traps that turned alien overconfidence into catastrophic failure, and their fleets, operating in concert with liberated civilizations, executed simultaneous operations that disrupted supply chains, neutralized orbital defenses, and captured command centers with precision that left enemy forces bewildered and demoralized. And even when alien commanders attempted to adapt, humans had accounted for multiple variations in strategy, demonstrating an uncanny ability to read intentions, anticipate reactions, and manipulate outcomes on both micro and macro scales. And on planets previously devastated by occupational warfare, humans initiated rapid recovery programs, restoring infrastructure, providing food and medicine, and implementing local governance systems that balance guidance with autonomy, winning loyalty and fostering stability. And through these efforts, humanity demonstrated a form of power that extended far beyond mere military might, showing that true dominance came not from fear or oppression but from competence, foresight, and the ability to unify disparate systems toward a common goal. An alien species who had once dismissed humans as insignificant now recognized that underestimating Earth's people had been a mistake of epic proportions, one that had altered the political and military landscape of entire sectors. And as the Sol system coordinated intelligence sharing across liberated territories, they were able to preempt rebellions, sabotage attempts, and counteroffensives with remarkable efficiency, turning potential threats into opportunities for reinforcement. And in this way, humanity's deliberate patience and strategic restraint paid off in ways that reshaped galactic power dynamics, forcing dominant empires to reconsider assumptions about strength, morality, and adaptability. And while some factions attempted to exploit perceived weaknesses in human operations, they were invariably met with calculated responses that neutralized threats without unnecessary destruction, further demonstrating that humanity's power was not only immense but controlled, deliberate, and adaptable. And as liberated civilizations began contributing their own resources, technology, and manpower to coordinated efforts, the human-led coalition grew stronger, more resilient, and more efficient with each passing day. And through a combination of strategic genius, moral clarity, and technological superiority, humans had transformed from the observer to the orchestrator, from the underestimated to the undeniable, revealing across a galaxy that the restraint they had practiced for centuries was not a sign of weakness, but a deliberate strategy, a patience that ensured when the time came to act, every move would be decisive, overwhelming, and irreversible, and in every corner of the universe. The lesson became clear. Humans had withheld their strength not because they could not wield it, but because they knew the true power of timing, foresight, and the discipline unleashing a capability. And now, as the galaxy adjusted to this new reality, no empire, fleet, or council could ignore the presence, influence, or judgment of humanity without risking immediate and catastrophic consequences. As humanity's influence solidified across liberated sectors, the scale of their operations became unprecedented, a complex network of fleets, intelligence nodes, and allied civilizations coordinated with a level of precision that alien empires could barely comprehend. And what made human strategy truly devastating was its holistic nature, integrating military action, technological mastery, and social restructuring simultaneously, ensuring that every victory was permanent, every liberated world self-sustaining, and every former oppressor's attempt to regain control was met with foresight and preemptive countermeasures. And while humans were celebrated as liberators, they did not indulge in conquest for its own sake, instead focusing on creating systems of stability, communication, and defense that allowed societies once oppressed to thrive. And this approach confused alien commanders who had expected humans to pursue revenge or territorial expansion, yet instead they witnessed careful, calculated actions that maximize both strategic advantage and ethical responsibility, and humans continue to refine alien technologies, often repurposing weapons, ships, and communication arrays in ways that preserve their allies' resources while neutralizing threats, demonstrating a level of creativity and adaptability that turned the enemy's own strengths into liabilities. And on multiple fronts, humans orchestrated simultaneous operations that disrupted entire logistical networks, disabled orbital fortresses, and liberated critical supply lines, leaving alien fleets scattered, disorganized, and demoralized. And while some tried to regroup and negotiate, human diplomats and strategists had already anticipated the terms, presenting clear evidence of capabilities, readiness, and moral authority that forced even the most stubborn opponents into compliance. And as humans integrated the knowledge and resources of liberated civilizations into their network, they created a synergy that amplified their operational effectiveness far beyond the Sol system, and through carefully measured displays of power, humans sent a clear message to the galaxy. Restraint had been a choice, patience a strategy, and the unleashing of human capability was both inevitable and unstoppable, and in the corridors of alien governments. Fear replaced arrogance as leaders realized that centuries of underestimation had left them vulnerable, while intelligence analysts scrambled to understand. The operational sophistication, technological foresight, and psychological insight humans had employed in every maneuver, and as a coalition of human-led forces continued to expand, alien resistance became fragmented, their decisions slower, more desperate, and increasingly ineffective against an opponent who seemed always one step ahead. And humanity's long-term planning extended beyond immediate military victories, encompassing stabilization efforts that restored infrastructure, ensured food security, and implemented governance systems that maintained order while respecting local customs, a combination that reinforced loyalty, reduced rebellion, and showcased the effectiveness of intelligence over brute force. And even as alien powers attempted last-ditch efforts to regain influence, humans had already deployed contingency operations, cutting off reinforcements, neutralizing critical technology, and creating strategic choke points that made any offensive action impossible, without catastrophic loss. And through this combination of patience, intelligence, technological supremacy, and ethical consideration, humanity demonstrated a form of power that transcended traditional notions of military might, proving that the species long dismissed as insignificant had mastered the orchestration of entire civilizations, balancing liberation, defense, and governance with a deftness that left the galaxy in awe, and as systems once subjugated began to thrive under human guidance, sharing knowledge, resources, and technology back into the coalition, the scale of influence achieved became exponential, and alien empires, once confident in their dominance, were forced to acknowledge that humans had not only withheld their strength, but had done so to prepare for precise, inevitable, and irrevocable transformation of galactic order. And the lesson echoed everywhere. Underestimating humanity was no longer a mistake that could be corrected. It was a disaster whose consequences would reshape the political, technological, and cultural landscape of the galaxy forever. With a majority of previously occupied systems now under coordinated human guidance, humanity's reputation spread like wildfire across the galaxy, a force simultaneously admired, feared, and respected, and alien powers who had once assumed humans would be reactive, emotional, or short-sighted were forced to confront a reality of meticulous planning, adaptive strategies, and overwhelming foresight. And every operation executed by humans demonstrated not only superior technology but a deep understanding of alien psychology, military doctrine, and social dynamics, allowing them to anticipate rebellions, sabotage, and counterattacks with uncanny accuracy, while fleets once thought formidable were systematically neutralized through precision strikes, diversionary maneuvers, and the repurposing of captured alien ships, and humans integrated intelligence from liberated worlds, creating predictive models that simulated enemy behavior, supply chain vulnerabilities, and chain of command weaknesses, effectively rendering alien retaliation almost impossible. And in the midst of this expansion, human diplomats worked tirelessly to forge new alliances, reconcile former enemies, and stabilize emerging governments, ensuring that each victory was both permanent and beneficial for the galaxy at large. And through these combined efforts, humans were able to establish a network of influence so vast that communication, logistics, and military operations could be coordinated across multiple sectors in real time, while still maintaining the flexibility to respond to unexpected developments. And even as alien commanders attempted to regroup, their efforts were anticipated and countered, often before they could act, through subtle manipulation of perception, misinformation, and strategic positioning, revealing that humanity's patience had been deliberate, its restraint calculated, and its unleashing unavoidable once the conditions were perfect. And this perfection was not accidental, but the result of decades of observation, study, and preparation, coupled with centuries of cultural emphasis on adaptability, collaboration, and problem-solving. And as fleets of liberated species joined human operations, contributing their technology, manpower, and knowledge, the coalition's capabilities multiplied, allowing simultaneous operations across dozens of systems that destabilized remaining hostile forces and liberated more territories, all executed with a level of precision that alien observers could scarcely believe. And while humans were methodical, they were not merciless, often prioritizing protection of civilian populations, restoration of infrastructure, and integration of local governance to ensure stability, demonstrating that true strength lay in intelligence, planning, and ethical action rather than raw power alone. And as alien powers watched their fleets neutralized, their colonies liberated, and their authority dismantled systematically, fear replaced arrogance, and desperate attempts to negotiate were met with clear terms backed by undeniable proof of human capability, leaving no room for doubt, resistance, or underestimation. And throughout the galaxy, whispers spread of humanity's ability to operate across vast distances, to coordinate multi-system campaigns, and to anticipate every contingency, reinforcing the idea that what had once been perceived as restraint was in fact deliberate strategy, and that the unleashing of human power was not a random eruption but a controlled, inevitable, and irreversible reshaping of galactic order. And in every liberated world, societies flourish under human guidance, contributing back to the coalition, strengthening collective security, advancing technology, and fostering cooperation. And as humans demonstrated not only military superiority but governance, diplomacy, and scientific advancement on a scale unmatched in recorded history, the galaxy began to internalize a sobering truth. The species they had dismissed, underestimated, and ignored for centuries had not only survived but risen to a level of capability, strategy, and influence that no empire could ignore, challenge, or contain. And the cumulative effect of humanity's patient preparation, deliberate restraint, and precise unleashing of strength had permanently altered the balance of power, setting a precedent that would define interstellar relations for generations, and ensuring that the lesson of Earth's people was clear. Underestimate humans once, and the consequences are both inevitable and irreversible. With the galaxy now fully aware of humanity's capabilities, the final phase of their campaign unfolded not through chaos, but through deliberate, decisive orchestration, and humans moved to consolidate gains, establish enduring alliances, and ensure that no power could rise unchecked without first acknowledging the strategic, technological, and moral authority of Earth's people. And as fleets once feared for their size and firepower were dismantled, reproposed, or integrated into human-led operations, alien civilizations finally comprehended the full extent of what they had underestimated for centuries, a species capable of harmonizing foresight, ethics, diplomacy, and unparalleled technological ingenuity into a force that could reshape entire sectors without unnecessary destruction. And while humans had unleashed overwhelming strength, they had done so with restraint, only as much as needed to neutralize threats, restore stability, and secure the liberation of oppressed worlds, demonstrating that true power was measured not by the devastation inflicted, but by the long-term security and prosperity achieved. And as liberated species contributed their own knowledge, resources, and fleets to the coalition, the galaxy experienced a renaissance of science, exploration, and collaboration under human guidance, bridging cultural divides and stabilizing systems previously torn apart by war, oppression, and neglect. And alien leaders, humbled and forced into cooperation, recognized that the age of dismissing Earth as insignificant was over, that humanity's patient observation, hidden preparation, and meticulous strategy had ensured that their unleashing of power was not only inevitable but perfect in timing and execution. And as humans continued to expand infrastructure, coordinate governance, and nurture scientific discovery across star systems, the galaxy adjusted to a new equilibrium, one where human foresight and ethical supremacy set the standard for interstellar relations. And in every corner, civilizations once oppressed now thrived, fleets once dominant now collaborated, and political structures once rigid now embraced the guidance, insight, and organization provided by humanity, establishing a lasting order in which no empire could rise without first acknowledging the lessons of restraint, preparation, and decisive action demonstrated by Earth. And the ripple of human influence extended even to systems previously untouched, inspiring innovation, resistance to tyranny, and cooperation, while simultaneously neutralizing latent threats with surgical precision, ensuring that history would remember the era not as one of conquest, but as one in which humanity had revealed its true nature, patient, disciplined, morally conscious, adaptable, and overwhelmingly capable. And as the last pockets of resistance were integrated, every alien civilization finally accepted the reality that humans had withheld their strength not out of hesitation, but out of calculated strategy, that the unleashing of their power had been a controlled, inevitable demonstration of superiority, and that the galaxy itself had been reshaped by a species whose patience, intelligence, and moral clarity ensured that when humans acted, it was not merely to win, but to establish a lasting, balanced order. And the echoes of this transformation reverberated across star systems, from liberated worlds to former empires, leaving a single undeniable truth etched into the consciousness of every sentient species. Humans, underestimated for centuries, had unleashed their strength, and in doing so, they had changed the fate of the galaxy forever.